Hi, everyone. My name is Simone, and welcome to episode 6 of Art Like Everything Else, the podcast. Alrighty, so let's hop right into our opening segment for this episode. So, the quote for today is from David Niven. And the quote goes, "You are not just here to fill space or be a background character in someone else's movie. Consider this. Nothing would be the same if you did not exist. Every place you have ever been and everyone you have ever spoken to would be different without you. We are all connected and we are all affected by the decisions and even the existence of those around us." And that's the end of the quote. So I really like this quote, and I would love to hear what you all thought about it in the comments. I thought this quote kind of perfectly goes into the topic I wanted to talk about. Today I wanted to talk about being a background character. Oftentimes, I kind of see like this idea of being a background character in someone else's life is always kind of seen as like this negative thing. Like even looking at the quote we kind of just heard by David Niven, it says you are not just here to fill space or be a background character in someone else's movie. And while I absolutely and wholeheartedly agree, like, of course, you are the main character in your life and you should absolutely go and do and pursue all the things that you wish to pursue that will fulfill you. Like, you're not just a background character, you are your own main character. But also, I think it's fun to be a background character as well. And honestly, I think being a background character is fun in all the ways that David Niven also talked about in his quote. Nothing would be the same if you did not exist. Like if you were not the background character in someone else's story, that story would not be the same. Like every place you have ever been and everyone you have ever spoken to would be different without you. So like just because you're a background character doesn't mean you don't play a very important role. Being background is so very important. Like Niven mentioned, we are all connected and we are all affected by the decisions and even the existence of those around us. So just by you existing, you are a part of that story or that moment. If you were not there, the entire thing would be different because you wouldn't be there. Something I wonder about often as a result is how I show up in other people's life. Like, do you ever kind of think about how you show up in other people's lives? So, like, let's say you're watching a TV show, but it's a show about your friend. Like, what would your character look like in that show? Like, how do you show up in other people's lives? How do you feel you show up as a background character for other people? And, like, I don't know if my friends find this annoying or not, but I am always curious about how I show up for them. And so I do ask every now and then, like, how do I make them feel? Like, would they say I'm a safe space? Like, and just questions like that, trying to gauge how I show up for them. And, like, how I should be showing up for them. Like, what would kind of be best for them. I like asking questions because I do legitimately want to know how I show up for them, the people in my life. I'm really curious about that because, like, of course, there are a lot of similarities among my friends because I'm me. And so, like, a lot of those things kind of having to do with who I am as a person and how I show up for them. But, like, for some people, it's also different. Like, someone might deem me kinder than, like, another friend. And it's not because I am more kind to this friend, but maybe it's because this friend isn't used to the type of kindness I may offer. And so, like, in comparison to what they're used to, I might come across as like super nice to almost like too nice of a person. Whereas another person, like another friend of mine, might just be like, "Oh, you're cool, like you're nice, sure, whatever." And it's like it's sort of run of the mill because I am not the first really nice person that they've met. And so, like, even among the people you know and among all the people you kind of encounter, you likely show up differently. And, like, you affect them differently. And so that's why I think being a background character actually isn't a bad thing. Like, so much of life is actually just a culmination of a bunch of little things. And so much of our existence isn't just this one kind of big role. there's so many smaller roles that have so many other even smaller influences that then build up to these bigger things. And so just as you may be the background character in someone else's life, there are people who are background characters in your life. So like, what is your life story? Like, what are the little things they might be contributing to you that is building you and helping you to become the person you want to become? Maybe they're showing you the very person you don't want to become. Maybe you're learning what kindness looks like and can feel like. Just lessons that will be very important, especially in deciding how you want to be. Also, it's important to realize the roles in which you kind of take up, even in other people's lives, can be very small. Like, I often think about, or at least I did when I used to eat at restaurants more frequently prior to COVID. But like, when I go to a restaurant and the waitress or a cashier or someone I might encounter there, now they might see 20 to 30 people in a day come through their work establishment. And I think about how I am showing up. Like, I'm either hoping that like I'm showing up as a nice customer, whether that means I'm standing out among a slew of annoying customers, or just one face among many nice customers. I am always wondering, like, how am I showing up in this person's life, even if only for just the blink of an eye? Because the closer you are to the people, the more ways in which how you show up for them can vary. So like, I post on TikTok every now and again, and even then I wonder, how do I show up, or how do I come across on these people's For You pages? Like, was I like a TikTok after a slew of funny TikToks, or was I a TikTok after a slew of serious TikToks? Because honestly, the way you come across can depend entirely on the environment you're in. Take bad movies, for example. One of the biggest commonalities when it comes to movies I find to be bad are a lack of background. There are very few or very little background to the movie to flesh out the story and make it believable. Like the story being told, for the story being told, there aren't people or details in the background that will make the story believable. And that's not to say that stories have elaborate staging or anything. No. I've seen plenty of movies with small casts and not very big budgets, but they were able to make their story and the details in the background work. Like, there's that movie, The Collective. I believe it has Tyrese in it. But in my opinion, it wasn't good. And so I am just talking, like, this is just my personal opinion. If you haven't seen the movie and would like to watch it, by all means do so. But I personally didn't enjoy the movie because it seemed like most of its budget went towards getting recognizable actors rather than building believable sets and backgrounds for the story to make sense. I feel like if they had went with like lesser known actors and like stuck to trying to fill out the background, it could have been a bit more cohesive. But like, think about it. Think about it. If you were to walk into a coffee shop and there was literally nothing on the walls, it was just like bare bones, everything. Like behind the counter, you only saw like the coffee, ground coffee, creamer, steamed milk. You only saw like the ingredients to make coffee. On the counter, there was a single register, and then the cashier was just like a single person, plain clothes. Like, if you walked into that coffee shop and that's all there was, would that not seem sketchy to you? Like, if I walked into such an establishment myself, I'd feel like maybe this was built as a cover for something. Like, this does not seem like I'm actually supposed to be here. And it's just like, yeah, it's like, but back to what we were talking about. So, like, yes, be the main character in your own life and do all the things that will bring you fulfillment. But also, don't knock being a background character. I think, because there's nothing wrong with being a background character. I do think the disconnect in valuing being a background character might be coming from when people who maybe they find themselves being the background character often in other people's lives, it could be because they may not feel equal effort in being the main character in their own life. And so I don't think that life has to be an either or. You can enjoy being the main character in your life, and you can enjoy being a background character in the lives of those around you. Now, our closeout segment is a quote by John Getz, and it goes, "Consider yourself a functional character in someone else's novel. A background character, a person on the street. That's the perspective." Like, yes, that's the end of the quote. But yes, be a main character, but be a background character too. And I'd love to see how that turns out for you. All right, that's all I have for today's episode. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.